Hello, I'm Chris Beachum, managing editor of Gold Derby, along with Ray Richmond, senior editor of Gold Derby. And we've got Gabriel LaBelle, the star of The Fabelmans, the new Steven Spielberg movie out in theaters right now. Um, Gabriel, I know you had watched Steven Spielberg movies in your life growing up. I think Ray and I are old enough to have really been around when he started his career, but you've seen as many as you wanted to see. Well, how is he different in person, especially as a director, than you anticipated him being?
I had no idea what to anticipate with that. And I feel like I was surprised at how just like personable and charming and kind he is. I was it's not like I'm expecting him to be this terrible person, but it was like delightful that he is just like a good guy. And we had zoomed a bunch leading up to filming, and so I I don't know. It was I guess I just knew him a bit, so I wasn't expecting anything or surprised by anything. It was just, I mean, he's just very lovely to be around.
Yeah, you always feel like these larger than life figures are gonna cop attitudes and such. And I'm from everything I've heard, that's not the case with him.
Oh, not at all.
How was making a big budget, big studio movie different than the way you thought it would be going in?
Again, I have, I guess there's this, you know, conception that these huge films with huge budgets are made by men at a round table in suits going like, how do we make money? And but that's not the case with Steven. They may be trying to copy what he did, but all he does is play with a camera. Him and Tony and Christy and Yanish, like it's their creative baby, and they're just four friends playing with a camera out in the desert. It's no different than how he made movies as a kid. It's just he's just so passionate about it that's all it is.
Michelle Williams is getting a lot of Oscar buzz for playing your mother in this movie,
Hmm.
and deservedly so. It's one of the best
Oh
performances I've
God.
ever seen her give. What, as you're watching her, you're in a scene with her, or maybe off camera watching her. What was she doing that impressed you?
Oh, just everything. I mean, it's wild, like having this super actor right in front of your face, like delivering this incredible nuanced performance, and you're trying your best to stay in it, but at the same time you're just kind of like, this is incredible. Nobody else has seen this yet. And you feel kind of privileged. It's like you're being let in on a secret, like being a part of something so cool. She's her and Paul too. Like I was just in awe of them the whole time.
What was maybe a scene of hers that when she finished, you just went, "Wow!" I mean, that was something that was maybe the most memorable moment that you shot with her.
It's there's a scene where as a family we're on a road trip, and her character has to get out of the car and cry, and I come up and I just talk to her because I'm the only one that knows what she's really going through. And she what she does, she's like, her monologue that Tony Kushner and Steven wrote, like she just annihilates it. And I remember being so impressed with how quickly she could disconnect from that character into her own life. Like in between takes, she's going for walks with her daughter who is visiting set, and they're linked arms and they're hanging out, and then on action she's back in this deeply emotional state. Like the amount of focus she has and control over her brain is nuts. And I just remember there are so many scenes like that, so many days. I have a lot of memories of her.
What were you asking Michelle and Paul for acting tips or anything? I mean, or it wasn't like that.
Every once in a while, I'd ask Michelle how she stays so relaxed on set, and she's like, "You're not relaxed," and she'd give me nothing. Or Paul, I remember there's a scene where my character is kind of freaking out, and the day before shooting, I was like, "Do you how do you make that real?" And he's like, you don't need any advice. And so they never really gave me anything. And I in a way I'm glad they did, because they didn't, because you kind of have to figure it out on your own. You have to find what works for you. Everybody's different. And after doing that movie and kind of surprising myself with being able to do what the script called for, I wouldn't know how to explain that to anybody else. So it's in a way it makes sense. At the time, sometimes I'd be a little like, "Come on, give me something," but it makes a lot of sense that they didn't.
Did you feel extra pressure to do well? I mean, essentially playing a younger version of the director. You're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I have to embody him when he was a teenager.
Oh my God, yeah. Being in any movie, you feel like that, but then being in a Steven Spielberg movie that's about his life, where you're playing him, it's the stakes. I made the stakes a lot higher than they actually were, and I put a lot of pressure on myself, because you don't want to be the person to ruin a movie or a Steven Spielberg movie or his life story. And so, yeah, it was very nerve-wracking the whole time.
It had to be surreal. I mean, my God, here you are. You're like, I'm playing him.
Well, you're just looking around the whole time, because the set is surrounded by masters in every department of filmmaking: music, editing, cinematography, sound, acting, camera work. Like the A camera operator Mitch stormed the beaches of Normandy with a handheld camera for Saving Private Ryan. The props department, like costumes, everything is top notch, incredible filmmaking. And then there's me, like fresh out of high school, fresh out of a COVID lockdown, and I'm just kind of like looking at everything around me. It's really surreal. It's such an incredible project to be a part of, because you're just learning so much from these masters.
With you being so young, it kind of occurred to me over the weekend when I was thinking about this interview. Um, Michelle started her career so early. Paul started his career so early. So of course, the kids in this movie are starting their careers early. Was there ever any discussion of that?
Yeah, there was. Paul, Seth, and Michelle all started seeing success in their late teens, early 20s. And so whether or not we went into total detail about what that was, we kind of talked about the philosophies of what's gonna come and what that means, and just kind of like I don't know, like what it is. And which was very lovely. It felt like they all understood. And even if yeah, it was cool. And they were very they treated me as peers. And I remember one time I went up to Michelle, and I'm just gushing about her, like, like, how do you stay in this like subconscious place the whole day, because you can only achieve that for moments. Like, how do you do that the whole time? And she's like, "Oh, honey, I'm twice your age." Like, and so it's really inspiring to look at these people and go like, "Oh, you can achieve what they do." Like, it's not like people just say words and some happen to say them better than others. Like, you can build up to something, and that takes time. And they were once where I was, and I can get to where they are. It was really cool.
You know, I'm sorry, Ray.
No, 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 go ahead.
The From the moment you were signed, I'm sure your life changed in
Mm.
terms of scripts being offered, producers or directors wanting to have conversations with you. Can you talk a little bit about that? And now that the movie's out, I mean, even more so, how has this being cast in this movie changed your career, changed your life?
It's Well, it's like an audition to the world in a way. You can only assume that as many filmmakers as possible are going to want to see the movie that made Steven Spielberg. So it's an incredible resource. And I've been able to sign with incredible agents and publicists who help me incredibly. And I'm just I don't know. It's a giant it's a giant networking tool in a way, and you're talking to people you never would have imagined you'd ever be talking to. It's such a blessing that this has really just opened so many doors.
You must have seen this movie of dozens of times at this point.
I've seen it 4 times.
How many?
Four times, all in packed theaters.
Wow. I mean, is it weird watching you perform? Do you cringe or are you proud? Is it weird? I mean, or a little bit of all of the above to be watching yourself on the big screen.
It's strange. I was really nervous to watch it for the first time. I first saw it when it premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, and yeah, I didn't know what to expect at first, and then but the funny thing is when I was making the movie, it's Steven's movie, and it's Tony's movie, and it's Christie's and Paul's and Michelle's, and I just better show up and not mess it up, So there's already this weird disassociation from it. So watching this movie, and because what Tony and Steven did with the script, what Steven does with the camera in this movie, like it's objectively a phenomenal movie. And so I was able to watch it for what it was at the beginning. I wasn't really remembering my time on set. I wasn't looking at myself in a weird way. I was experiencing this movie, and sure, I wasn't as surprised during the twists and turns, but I was able to really kind of just sit there and watch it and be affected by it for the first time, which is such a blessing. And I, because it means so much to me, I just want to keep watching it. So I saw it 3 times after that. But it's weird. I expected to hate watching myself, but it's not, like Michelle never watches herself. She won't and hasn't. And I don't know, it wasn't, it's not, it doesn't hurt me. At least this.
As you well know, almost every Steven Spielberg movie, takes him and others to award shows. We're an awards website, so I just wanted to ask you, whether this is Oscars, Golden Globes, SAG Awards, Critics' Choice, all kinds of possibilities. Is there somebody that you grew up watching that you would love to meet at one of these awards ceremonies?
Oh, geez. I have my mind goes blank at that stuff because you just, I don't know. I feel like so much more has happened than I'd ever expect. So just with the people I've worked with already. And so now I don't know. It's this whole experience from getting a call back, I've just kind of like been amazed at what I've been a part of. And so I can't answer specifically. I just know that whoever I do meet, I'm incredibly excited too.
What's it like, though, building off of that, Gabriel, to suddenly have your name tossed around in the Oscar and awards conversation? I mean, for a guy who was in high school months ago, that's got to be pretty heady
I don't
stuff.
think it can't happen. There have been many people nominated for their very first film or starring role in a film at the Oscars.
No one knows better than this website that you could get an Oscar.
Ariana DeBose last year.
Wow. I'm very flattered, but I don't know. It's a weird sense of relief that I didn't do a bad job. But it's I don't know. It's strange. It's very strange. And I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I really don't know how to answer that because I don't know. It doesn't seem, it seems like it still seems separated. It still seems detached from whatever world I'm aware of. So I have no idea.
Well, I interviewed Jessica Chastain a couple of years ago, and she won last year. And she was shooting the project that I was talking to her 2 weeks ago. She said she had to come into LA every weekend and then go back to Nashville or the South to shoot her project. So she was coming in and out of LA constantly, all throughout awards season to campaign and be at every event and so forth. So but I always tell people, enjoy the journey. It's not about that final destination of whatever award show you might be nominated at, or maybe you're presenting, or maybe you're just they're part of the cast. I think it's fun to think about the whole journey of the whole season.
Oh, I do too. I mean, you're meeting people along the way that you admire, and you could watch a movie and just be blown away by something, and then like 2 days later you're shaking hands with that person and exchanging stories. This whole thing is just, yeah, it's really cool to see this corner of the industry as well, and it just kind of gives you more perspective on the people involved and what everything is.
One more thing I wanted to ask you, Gabriel, because I've seen all these reports about Steven crying on the set a lot, and this was such an emotional experience to be going down the road of his actual family life and past. I mean, to what do you attribute that? Was it just, it seemed like it was a far more emotional experience for him than any of his other films have ever been. And hopefully you didn't take it personally that he was crying because of your performance.
I mean, he's mourning his parents. His mom passed like 5 years ago, and his dad passed 2.5 years ago. Paul and I had a scene that shot on the 1-year anniversary of his dad's death, and he's remembering his childhood and the family that he grew up around and the people that loved him. Like it's intense. It's incredibly surreal. And I wouldn't, when I'd see him cry, I never thought that, oh my God, I'm doing such a bad job. No, I honestly, I'd feel really, I felt like we're doing what he needs us to be doing. This is why he's making it. Like I just felt that I felt good that he's getting what he needed or didn't know he needed out of this experience. It's really it's an honor to step inside that guy's brain and his heart, and to kind of be told how it ticks.
Well, Gabriel, we both enjoyed the movie so much. I encourage everybody, go see it in a theater. I know it's fun to watch things on streaming, but this is a great theatrical experience.
No question.
No, you have to watch it. I've seen it 4 times, only in packed audiences. Like it has this effect on people. They're laughing, they're crying, they're vocal. You have to see it in the theater.
Well, thank you so much for today. Good luck with award season, and we hope to see you on some of these red carpets.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you very much.